Welcome to That Pennsylvania Witch podcast. My name is Katelyn Dawn. Thanks for joining us today. Hello, thank you for tuning into That Pennsylvania Witch podcast. It is officially season 2. I've been on this podcasting journey for over a year, and it has been awesome. So thanks again for sticking with me this far. On today's episode, I welcome author and priestess Elyse Welles. We have an awesome conversation about Greek priestesses, deity, the overlap of the dark goddess archetype, and I can't wait to share it with you today. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We connected a little bit at the Sacred Space conference. Were you presenting there, Elyse?
No, I did not know I was going to be in the US for it. And my friend and co-host for the Magic Kitchen podcast, Leandra, had an extra ticket. Somebody she was supposed to go with dropped out. And she was like, are you still here? And I was like, yes, I am. She's like, are you going to still be here next month? This was in January. It's like, yes. So, yeah, it was a surprise that I could go, and it was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
I turned a corner. I was surprised to see you. I was excited. I gave you a hug, and we talked a little bit about your book that's coming out on November 8th, Sacred Wild.
Yes, an invitation to connect to spirits of the land.
Oh, can you tell me a little bit about that, please? What is your relationship to the spirits of the land?
So a lot of people think of, if I say land spirits, they either have a vague kind of idea of some sleeping energy in the earth, or they think of like Mesoamerican cultures and it doesn't feel like something for them, or they think of fairies. And then that might even spur thoughts of they're dangerous. And that is not my experience. Land spirits are the most powerful spirits in a place. Everywhere in the world is inhabited with land spirits. And by learning to work with those energies more intentionally and by building sacred relationship, that is the key. In Greek, we have this term charis, which is literally sacred reciprocity. And that's your goal in working with all deity, with all spirits, ancestors, family in real life. And it's just the goal is reciprocity always. And when we approach our relationship with deity, and especially land is always waiting to give back. Like we are already in that system and cycle with our land. Even if we don't know the land knows us. Every time we sit on our porch, our land spirits know. And when we bring them into our lives more intentionally, when we, instead of just sitting on our porch, we sit on our porch and say good morning to the land, and it is that simple in the beginning, we start to have a better relationship with ourselves, with nature, and we start to feel more grounded. There's an unnumbered list of benefits that I've found in working with land spirits. So this book introduces who they are, what they're like, and how to start reaching out to them on your own land. Because so many people think you have to go to Greece to meet the gods. You have to go to England to be on sacred land. It's got to be Stonehenge or it's not a sacred place, and through my work with Seeking Noumena means spirits of place, divine places. So that's what I do is I seek them. And as I was seeking them, I was realizing almost everywhere is a Noumena. So we are so blessed to be on this planet. Like I'm a Taurus, and I always say she's for me. Like I am not going off world. There is no world where I want to do any space tourism. This is my planet, and she's beautiful everywhere I've been. Everywhere I've been on her surface and in her seas. And it's all worth connecting to.
Oh, I totally agree. It's funny when people tell me that they live in a city so they can't connect to the land spirits. Well, yes, you can. You absolutely can. And more than that, they're really eager. I found like in a city, I know that sounds crazy, but in a city, it can be really enlightening to connect with the land spirits there. So I am excited to read this book. I've already pre-ordered it. I know on your website, seekingnoumena.com, you have the ability to do that because I just did it this morning and it was very simple. So if anybody's listening and is excited to pre-order, go ahead and click that pre-order now button because it is super simple to do. Oh, your forewords by Amy Blackthorne. I love Amy Blackthorne. If you're listening, hi, Amy.
Yeah, we've been friends for a few years now. And even when I was pitching the proposal of this book, I was like, I really hope Amy will do the forward.
Oh my God.
It was too perfect.
We were speaking a little bit earlier and you said that you're doing your launch at the Serpent's Key in Hanover. And that's on November 8th as well, too, right? The same day.
Yes.
Date?
Yeah, and it's gonna be good because I mean, how could we have planned this? Never in a million. But it's on a Saturday, and Hanover celebrates second Saturdays. Like instead of some places do first Fridays, they do second Saturdays. So there's gonna be other vendors, coffee shops out on the street. Like it's gonna be a great time. And I'll be signing books and doing a reading. So definitely come out if you're local or if you're not. I have some friends driving up from the south. So
That's awesome. And I love the Serpent's Key. I don't know Beck well, but they're awesome. I really like their social media presence, and the store is gorgeous. So that I'm gonna try to make it. Can
yeah,
you tell
thank
me a
you.
little bit? Yeah, I'm excited. Can you tell me a little bit about what it means to be a Greek priestess in today's world?
Absolutely. So this sounds crazy to say out loud, and it sounds like it can't possibly be true. But I am the only native Greek priestess teaching the Earth Priestess arts. I lived in Greece full time for 5 years. I'm blessed. On my mom's side, I'm American. On my dad's side, I'm Greek and Egyptian. Egypt, unfortunately, is not a very safe place to explore the sacred sites or connect to them. Um, so Greece is where my family has always felt at home. So I grew up visiting every year, and about 5 years ago during COVID, I got a very clear call from the goddess to move there and become a full-time writer in 2020. So in 2021, I finally had enough money, and these things take time. And my husband is an American citizen, so he had to get residency with me there, and so everything worked out. And in 2021, we moved to Greece full time, and I began working with the gods. Artemis is the goddess of the land that I live on. I live very close to Vavrona, which in English is Browron. It's like a really butchered, I don't know how we got there, but it's Vavrona in Greek, Browron in English. And this is a really famous temple where the high priestess Iphigenia worked. That doesn't really do it justice. Served, I suppose is a better way to say it. And she was so famous for her ability to help women through childbirth, which a lot of people don't think of Artemis that way. They think of her as a virgin goddess, or they think of her as, of the wilds. They don't think of her as helping women give birth. But she helped her mother Leto give birth to Apollo. She came out first as the twin and helped her give birth. And so she actually, in ancient times, had a really close connection to childbirth, as did Hecate. Hecate, Artemis Ekati, was one deity for most of Greek history. And it's only in the more, I call it the modern era. I really mean the classical era, like 300 BC, to me, is like the beginning of modernity. Before that is where we have a much richer practice of priestess work. We have actually a pretty non-gendered. The further back you go, the less gendered it gets, the less formal it gets, the more ecstatic it gets, the more nature-based. We don't go in buildings to worship. We go out to the woods. So we don't have much written record of that. So when people think of ancient Greece, they think of what we have written down, and that's about 300 BC to present, so 2,300 years, give or take. The majority of Greek history, they were one deity. And so as I was beginning to work with the land there through Artemis, she began kind of guiding me towards what a priestess really is. I'm an initiated high priestess in the eclectic fairy tradition of witchcraft. I had this initiation, I had this title, but I didn't feel confident stepping into it for 2 years because to me, being a priestess is about being of service. And I wasn't sure yet who I was serving. Is it I had podcasts, I had books and writings that were moving through, but who was I serving? How can I serve? And as my work with Iphigenia as well, she was a human woman, real person. But when she passed away, her tomb actually became a little mini temple of its own. It's within the temple of Artemis. Um, and this is like the area my family has always lived. So she's been the goddess that's guided me. Her and Apollo have really been with me since I was very, very young. I actually brought to show you. This is the book that introduced me. This is the copy. Like it's
Oh
yellowed,
my
like it's,
gosh, that's
yeah.
amazing.
Delaire's Book of Greek Myths, for those who aren't watching, you're probably listening to it, but this is the book that they kind of talk about how the ancients prayed. And I was always getting radio silence with Jesus. So I tried Apollo and he worked. He answered me. So this book like literally got me where I am today. At 3 years old, I started there. So anyway, these gods have always kind of been there. And I started realizing with Iphigenia as well that like you can serve the land itself. You can be a priestess of Greece itself. Like I can really, so that's really, I see my service, it's manifold. Like I serve my students that come into my courses. I serve the public with the articles I write. I'm the Greek correspondent for the Wild Hunt, as well. And so I see that as a really important act of service for Greece. Like I am really bridging for the West what's going on in Greece. So many people work with the Greek gods, but hardly any of those people live in Greece. So really trying to bring the West of reality of what Greece is like, what the land is like. And I run retreats in Greece. If you'd like to visit Greece with me, I would love it. But unfortunately, not everybody's going to get to do that. So I try to bring that to you wherever you are. Um, and that's who I see myself in service of at, on the macro level is Greece itself. I hate to use this Christianized word, but like the ministry, like
Hey, whatever
the
works. I mean, yeah, I have to call myself a minister. I do every once in a while services at the UU of York, not very often, but I also, cringe a little bit when I use that word, but it works. It applies. We might not have the right word for it.
Yeah, yeah. I should look up like a ancient Greek title of somebody who did something like that and see if we can get that in circulation.
Yeah, hey, we can rebrand. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think I don't know, I think that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that story. Was there, so I know this is a really tough question, but was there a defining moment that led you on this spiritual path? Like one moment that you can think of? I know that you read about it in the books, you grew up immersed in the culture, but was there something that pulled you in specifically?
Well, it's interesting because when I was in middle school, at the end of middle school, at the end of eighth grade, my dad got a job in the Middle East and we had to move to Bahrain, which Bahrain is not a dangerous place to live if you're very, very normal and you're an expat and you're being paid well. And there's a lot of that going on over there. So they have actually persecuted a lot of witches. They've executed witches. They've, in the past, like since 2014, they've also continued this persecution. I was always kind of on this spiritual path. I wouldn't have even called it that. It was just my reality, like, and when I moved to Bahrain, my guides sort of changed how I was being guided to connect. So it was when I got back from Bahrain, when I was graduating from high school, I wanted to graduate from the high school I had grown up going to. We had like 130 graduating class. I knew these kids since we were four, many of even younger, like preschool. So I wanted to be with everybody. And so I did. So I came home, I lived with other family, and finished my senior year here. And that was when like this floodgate. I also should say this too. My spirit guide, I thought she was just my imaginary friend when I was little. And then as I got older, she just didn't go away. And, eventually she actually led me to a book series by Llewellyn. It's the only middle grades book series they ever published called the Seer series. Did you ever hear this? Did you ever like?
No, that's amazing though.
It's so good. It's about this girl, Sabine, and she has this spirit guide. And so anyway, so my guides led me literally in the library. They were like, I was at the Nancy Drew section and they were like, come here, go back there, go pick that up. So I read that in middle school and it kind of helped me understand who my spirit guide was, like what she was doing. And so she guided me to learn astral travel while I was in Bahrain. I was using Lord of the Rings as a sacred text to do bibliomancy, but they never told me any of these things. They never labeled it as astral travel. They never labeled it as bibliomancy. They were just kind of like helping me learn these skills. And then when I got back to the States, it was like, okay, it's time to hit the ground. And I knew it was witchcraft. Like I never did the New Age pipeline ever. Like I just went right for it. And I got so lucky because our librarian was a Wiccan. So she had stocked this thing. I mean, 135 graduating class. Like this is a small ass town in Pennsylvania. And in Amish country, no less. And she had stocked it with classics, Raymond Buckland, Scott Cunningham, and Silver Ravenwolf. So I picked up Solitary Witch, going through it with a fine-toothed comb, I'm 17 years old, like highlighting, like not highlighting because it's a library book, but writing it all down. There was a ritual in there where she has you, I don't know if it's called a self-initiation. I think I would have been too intimidated by that language, but it was like a ritual to kind of dedicate yourself to your spiritual path. And I was shaking like a leaf. I was so scared I was going to do it all wrong. I was so worried that a goddess would show up or wouldn't. I didn't know what I actually wanted, and I called on Bridget specifically. I was really into Bridget at the time. which is ironic, right? Like not even Greek. And I think she just seems so gentle and
Yeah,
accessible and like there's so
approachable.
much. Yeah, she's approachable. You can read about her a million ways to Sunday. Like so she felt like I could know her and there weren't going to be any surprises if she showed up. So that's who I called on the first time and nothing like really happened at first. And then I noticed like the energy was just really different in the room. And I think this is what being a witch is. And then the next day I went out to the woods and because I was staying with my aunt and she actually lived on a property that bordered woods. And she had this boulder that I could see through because the woods were not like that old. Like they were old, but they were a logging woods that had been abandoned. So it wasn't a good forest in a healthy way, but it had figured itself out, right? Like land always figures itself out.
Yeah, regrowth and maybe not ancient trees, but still a forest. Yep.
Yeah. So there was this beautiful boulder with moss on it. As I was there, now I know it was the spirit of the land, but I had no idea, 17 years old, what was going on. I felt it rise. I felt something rise to meet me. And I swear, even the lights changed. Like it was like this bluish green light in the forest. It was just very different. It was very liminal. And this is what I want for the rest of my life. I want this feeling. And I want other people to know what this is because I was trying to tell my friends at school about it. I was trying to explain it, even to my bestie that I grew up with. And they're just like, "Oh." And I was like, what?
Oh
This is
yeah.
all right here. This is for you too. Like, try it. And so that 2 day cycle was like it for me. I was like, here I go forever. I just knew it's that deep knowing of who you are is this.
Oh yeah, and sinking further into that, that's what we just keep doing. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I love asking people what their origin story is, and almost everybody has a really similar story. So, thank you for that. I have a very similar, I guess you could call it an upbringing myself, and yeah, I just think that's really magical. Have you had any challenges or skepticism about or things that you've had to overcome? Either from yourself or others when you were stepping into this role?
The biggest one was taking the label Greek. Like I'm an actual Greek citizen. My dad is from Greece. My parents were pen pals actually in the 70s when they were little kids. And
Oh my
then,
gosh.
yeah, they were like put their names in this radio show that used to be on and they like got paired up as pen pals. So they wrote to each other since they were 12 and 13. And then when my mom turned 23 and had graduated her undergrad, she flew over to Greece. They fell in love. The guy, like it was the whole, like, it was so, yeah, so cute. So cute.
That's incredible. That is an amazing story.
Yeah, and they tried living in Greece, but Greece just does not have the opportunities for education, for employment, for it just was going to be a very different life than my mom wanted her family to have. So they decided to raise us in Pennsylvania. They made a lot of sacrifices so that we could visit Greece often and keep that cultural connection. And yet, because I speak like this, I was pushed back. I still am so hard by Greek people. Like they really, and I understand it. I get it. There's definitely a lot I don't have an understanding of because I didn't go through the Greek education system, because I didn't, but I am Greek. I have all the mundane paperwork to prove it. I have like, but I don't need any of that. I'm Greek. Like, I am Greek. My dad's Greek. There anything they want to prove my Greekness is there, except for my accent and my full-time existence in Greece alone. It's ironic because one of the main virtues of ancient Greek religion is xenia, which means short explanation is it means hospitality, but it means loving a foreigner as your own. And yet, modern Greece, and this is a symptom of orthodoxy being the only permissible, really the only permissible religion to be in Greece, they're very xenophobic and they don't really want Greeks. And a lot of Greeks have to leave Greece for economic opportunity. And so there's just a big cultural wound around leaving and being forced to leave. And so I get it. I understand it, but it is so mean. It is so mean, like the comments I get. It is awful. So that was my biggest challenge is just being like, you know what? No, screw you guys. My husband always jokes. He's like, just go full Greek lady. Like, speak like this. Do the Greek accent. Just do it correct. Just speak like you know you're supposed to. He's like, just like zoom in. And I'm like, no, like this is how I talk. Like, I'm not gonna. It's weird too on the other side because I feel self-conscious in America, there's like the go back to where you came from kind of thing. So my dad was always like insistent that we don't speak Greek in the US. So whenever I'm on Instagram or something and I'm talking about a deity, I have to like really gear up to say it in Greek correctly because I'm afraid of Americans getting upset that I'm saying it. Who's Hecate? It's Hecate. I've gotten over it, but that took literally 3 years to just reckon with.
I'm just picturing little Elise in the forest having these amazing experiences because had similar ones. Trying to shake your friend, like, pay attention to this. This is so cool. Like, hey, pay attention to this. This is amazing. And having all of these passions. And I'm so sorry that you felt that you were navigating, not necessarily not fitting in, but I'm also really glad that you sunk into the IDGAF about that because
Hmm.
that's awesome. That's badass. You have to
It
sing
was
to
a
be with
journey.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, but I got there.
Well, I mean, to me, witchcraft is all about empowerment too. So I'm glad that you got
Oh
there.
yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
surprised though. Yeah. As far as Greek mythology goes, it's actually really funny. It's almost ridiculous how spirit or how the universe or how the gods and the deities kind of pull you and yank you in a certain direction. I met someone at the Sacred Space Conference named Matthew Merlin, who did this incredible presentation on Saturn. And then we did a ritual to Saturn together, and it was just mind blowing. And Matthew's wonderful. If you haven't met Matthew, I totally recommend looking him up because I think you'll adore him.
Nice.
But he is all about classical astrology, which, of course, you know the origin of that. And I had never really considered it. I knew the sources, I knew the mythology. It wasn't something that I was pursuing because I was so deep into the Germanic aspect. I mean, my ancestors are like, I visited the graves of my Norse ancestors in January. That's how Norse I
That is
am.
awesome.
But so I had never really gotten into it, even though that's only one aspect of my heritage. It just was something that took a turn, and I was immersed in everything Germanic and everything Scandinavian. But Greek mythology was always something I was interested in. And after that ritual, which I'm a Capricorn, so Saturn, I don't get away with anything. I am ruled by Saturn, and boy, am I ruled by Saturn. I actually jokingly call him Daddy Saturn because I never get away with not learning a lesson. But this but this ritual was incredible, and it made me realize, like, oh, there's so much more I want to learn, and so much more I need to do. And so this led to taking a course with him and sinking deeper into that, and then finding the connections between all of these ancient cultures. But anyway, you're gonna have to correct me if I pronounce this name wrong. This led to this kind of opening of in my life being called by the Melissae. Am I
Oh
am
yeah.
I am I
Yes.
pronouncing
Oh
it
my gosh.
correctly?
The Melisai. Yes.
Melisai. Thank you. Because holy crap, did that happen by accident too? I was getting ready for our Lunisad ritual. We're central to York, Pennsylvania, York County, Pennsylvania. And so I just kept getting drawn over and over and over again to these bee priestesses, and I was like, what the hell, like, what is going on? This must be Matthew's fault, who knows what's going on. But so I researched, and we made bee watering stations, and we called to them, and I recited an old Orphic hymn, and it was just very beautiful. But I was also like, why is this being something that I'm being drawn to specifically for Lunisad? Because it was a very clear, like, hook and a pull. I was drawn to it. I found out that there is a big connection between Lou and Demeter.
Oh.
That was awesome to find out too, but that would make sense then. And so then another person who practices in Greece reached out to me, and then you reached out to me, and I was like, okay, what is happening here? So okay, we're just gonna go down this Greek path, I think, for a little while. So I'm psyched to be
Yeah.
on it, but wow, synchronicities abound.
Yeah, so my ancestors were Maenads. They were from Arcadia, which is where Pan's from. It's also just called Pan's Land a lot of the time. And it's in central Greece. It's in the Peloponnese, south central Greece, sort of. And it's very mountainous. And where my family is from is where these Maenad rituals would happen. So modern driving, it's like 40 minutes from Mantinea, which is kind of like the only somewhat, sometimes people know of Diotima of Mantinea. She was like one of the only female philosophers. She was from this region. And that says a lot that one of the only female philosophers from archaic Greece, because, as we hit Orphic era, like that's the new stuff. That's like AD. Like what?
Yeah,
But the
that's not the OGs.
BCE, yeah, the OGs, when patriarchy was prime stuff, to be a woman philosopher in Athens would have been impossible. But Arcadia, women had a lot more equality. There really wasn't, even like the priestess cults sort of evolved to be pay to play and aristocracy only. And it wasn't even about worshiping anyone. It was like, you do this so that you get a good husband kind of stuff. That never really happened in Arcadia. And the Maenads, a lot of the rites were done either only by women or women had the more important rites. Say like gender now, it's kind of irrelevant. Like all my classes are open to all genders because it's a different world.
Sure.
But the significance of that is important to recall, when we think about that. And what these Maenads would do is they would go out into the woods alone, naked, just women, and connect with Pan. So they would bring no food, no water, and they'd be out for 3 days and 3 nights minimum. Sometimes these Maenad rites would go longer. And they would come back covered in blood and dirt and all sorts of horrors, bathe in the river, and go back to domestic life. And the men never asked. It was just this like feral womanhood rite of passage, but it happened. We have different accounts. Sometimes we think it was every year. Sometimes we actually think it was multiple times a year. Sometimes our evidence points towards maybe like a solstice equinox timing situation for these rites. It's very interesting. And of course, we're talking very, very pre-archaic Greece, so we don't have much written record. Like the classical period of ancient Greece, prime, as people picture with like the Attic black pottery with the, like how the muses are illustrated in Hercules by Disney. All of that is 300 BC. Alexander the Great, Philip of Macedon, all that. Really it's like 400 BC to present is a different era of Greece. We see that evolve into the Byzantine era and all that. If we look the other direction of history, we get Homer 700 years before that. When we think of people are like, oh, I made this invocation for Hecate and I borrowed some pieces from Homer, the Orphics, and Aristotle. They're taking around 1800 years worth of literature and like condensing it, which is fine. Like there's nothing wrong with it at all. But I think it's kind of lost on us the significance of that this isn't actually all one type of people. And there was no such thing as Greece until realistically, like the earliest you could call Greece was 478 BC after some major battles with the Persians at Plataea. And then they formed the Delian League, which like formed Greece slowly. But they were tribes before that. They were no different than Native American tribes. True, it was the same concept of separated land. Yeah, wild.
That's awesome.
The
Yeah,
Maenads and stuff don't have a lot of written record because of that, but really cool stuff.
well, do you often feel, and I know with my druidic work and my other, I almost hate putting labels on things. Everything that we practice, even if you're not whatever neo-pagan, we're all neo-pagan, of us who are practicing because we are practicing a new version of paganism. It's an amalgamation of,
Reconstructionism is impossible.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful because of that. I think that there's so much that we can gain from learning what we can, honoring what we know, doing what we're drawn to. I mean, intuitively, you described as a child, and similar to me and so many other people who I've spoken to, you're intuitively drawn to practice something, and then you find out something historically or culturally significant that ended up shaping your belief without you knowing it. Sometimes you practice something you do a certain ritual a certain way, a certain movement, and then you look it up and it's directly tied to a certain deity or a cult, or I think that's even more beautiful and significant.
So one of my friends, Christopher Hughes, he's a incredible druid teacher. I think of him as one of the greats of our time. He refounded the Druid Order of Anglesey. So him and I were
Yeah.
talking about, Reconstruction, its merits, its kind of inherent falsehood. Like it's not actually possible to open a book and be like, all right, let's do exactly what, Diogenes was doing. Not, unfortunately, it's not possible. And he was like, you Greeks are so lucky. You've got all this record. And I said, actually, it just skews people's view of what the real people were doing because mostly all we have is 300 BC to present. And we also only really have Athens, winners write history. So if you're
That's
talking about like
true.
where my family's from, or people talk about drawing down the moon as a Greek practice, that was done up in Thessaly. That's the distance of New York City to DC. So these people didn't know each other. There was no drawing down the moon happening in Athens. The
I also
Thessalian
heard,
witches were
though,
doing
that
it.
drawing down the moon would have had some Sumerian significance too at one point, which makes sense. But of course, it wouldn't have been
Oh
called
yeah.
exactly that. And then all of these, that's fantastic.
Oh, I could go way down that rabbit hole. Yeah, Inanna is my primary goddess, which people are like, "Excuse me, she's not Greek." And I'm like, "I know, but like she is too because she's Aphrodite." This one gets people. Aphrodite is a brand spanking new goddess to Greece. She came through Cyprus, through the east, and made her way over to Athens and eventually became Aphrodite. And that's why they kind of throw like Aphrodite literally means born of foam. So they kind of have to throw in an origin story for her. So they're like, she came from sea foam and it was formed from Cronus's nuts. And you're like, what? But she did come from the sea because she came east. But oh yeah. Sorry, I could really go down that rabbit hole.
Please don't be sorry. This is 100% of the reason why I'm even doing this right now. So you're good. I also love to draw those parallels. Like I'm neurodivergent, so I see this
Same.
huge sprawl. Well, that's lovely. No wonder we're having such a good conversation. But I can draw this huge sprawling map and kind of trace. And I think that's beautiful. So there's really no separation or any need to. Putting
Oh
limiting
yeah.
factors such as like, oh, you can't practice this with this or this with that. But then when you find out that there are these ties because the evolution of deity, mankind and deity, the reflection of deity and our understanding of it and influencing each other, becoming this egregore, this like living, moving magic.
Yes.
That's where it's at. Absolutely. Is there a particular deity you feel drawn to?
Inanna mostly. And
Inanna, it
then
is Inanna. Okay.
she has over the years she's kind of shown me her faces. And when I first moved to Greece, I did a meditation at well, actually I did this one at the house I was living at first. I was pretty nomadic while I was in Greece, which was beautiful. I was able to like really explore different regions of Greece and just be on the land. But this first meditation with Inanna, I was kind of like, okay, you called me here. Let's set the tone of I just got here, I just unpacked, let's get it going. And in this meditation, we were around a fire, and Inanna's across the fire from me, and she puts her hand out for me to step into the fire. And as I take her hand, she like turns and becomes Aphrodite. And Aphrodite and I were standing in the fire together. And I didn't hear words, but I felt the deep knowing that I am she and she is I. That was what I felt like I heard. And so I was like, that feels really specific. So fortunately, Google yielded very quick results to explore what I shared, that she moved east and all these things. And so over the years, she's shown me more and more of her faces. And I'm not a hard polytheist, but I'm also not like a soft polytheist that there's no such thing as deity. It's all archetype. Definitely not that either. But I do think the gods are not static by any means. I think they grow and change and shift with the times, with the people that they're tied to humans in a way.
Yes.
They like us. I mean, they want us to thrive. She's shown me different faces, and now I actually teach a course every January. That it's a 9-week course that takes you through who have I've learned to call the goddesses of the red thread, because Inanna has led me to understand that the goddesses of the red thread, like Inanna, Aphrodite, Persephone, Hecate, and outside the Greek pantheon too, the
Yeah.
Morrigan, the Cailleach, Freya. These are all a type of goddess. We call them the dark goddesses, and that kind of doesn't quite do them justice, but they are goddesses who evolved specifically to work with the disempowered, marginalized, and largely throughout history, women. And that is their gift to humanity, is they help us find empowerment. That is what they are here to do with us as far as working with us goes. So I kind of work with those goddesses the most, and they come in turns. People get really worried. They get very monotheistic in their head about it. I need a patron. I need that one god. Who is it going to be? And it sounds lovely. I loved my search for my patron, but it wasn't until I realized that it's kind of it's almost a moot point to want a patron, because a patron has to be right for where you're at. So we have to get the mind out of it. It has to be experiential. And the more we do the work, the more we build our own spiritual practice, the more we connect to ourselves, the more we do shadow work, that's when deities come through. And even the concept of a patron might shift. Like Inanna's in my life, always. She's kind of the overarching umbrella, but we don't talk every day. She doesn't have a dedicated, just her altar. And sometimes I can go through months of working with one aspect. Like I went through a weight loss journey in the past couple of years, and it was Aphrodite specifically who helped me with that. So, but it was still through Inanna's
Of
guidance
course.
in a way, so
I do,
those
yeah.
are my main deities, that red thread through
See,
Inanna.
that's so beautiful. And Nana is also one of mine. It's incredible when you think about known by the Akkadians, Babylonians, I think the Syrians as well knew her as
The
Ishtar.
Assyrians,
Yeah, so they
hmm
would have known her as Ishtar. And then
Astarte.
Astarte, Isis. Yeah, I mean, there's just so
hmm
many. Oh, what's the one that's really not well known?
Anat, Ashtaroth,
Is it Ashtaroth or is it there's what Shoiska? Shoiska? There's so many, but that's what I mean. That's what's so beautiful about it is that because you don't have to have this one set definition of what your perspective is or who your patron deity is, if that's what you want to say, because it can be fluid. And that's
yeah.
even more beautiful. So,
hmm
that's amazing. That's
It's the
very cool.
journey.
Yeah, I've always wanted to go to, and things started happening before I realized it was Anana who was reaching out to me because we have like the eight-pointed star, and then we have the lion is a motive or an archetype that people don't often associate with Anana, but that's very, very intrinsically wound. And like in Sweden, the Vasa, the famous shipwreck, like that wrecked in the harbor, and then now it's like in part of a museum, and it's lions were all over the place in the battlefield and on these battleships, and they're meant to intimidate. And there's just so many amazing parallels and connections that we were talking earlier. You said that you have 3 podcasts, right?
Yes.
How do you do? Wow. How do you? I have one and I'm losing my mind. Like, that's incredible that you have 3.
So the biggest help is that I have an editor for Seeking Numina, the Sacred Places podcast, and that podcast is all about sacred places. So I interview a lot of guests. Sometimes we get very specific. Like I had Brett Hollyhead on, who lives in Wales. He's a Welsh author, and he just wrote a book on Sabrina, the River Severn spirit. So we did the whole episode about that river and those spirits of place. And then I've also had on guests where I really seem to get a lot of like Welsh and English sacred sites guests. But I also had Solomon Pakal on this past week talking about how, guess what, people? The Mayans aren't dead. They're real. And the biggest tradition of initiatory, non Abrahamic polytheism is actually in Guatemala. It's the daykeepers, the Mayans. So he's not a daykeeper, he's a more traditional priest, but it's a great episode. So we talk a lot about sacred land in that podcast, and I do have an editor. Shout out at Your Witchy Librarian on Instagram. Jordan's my editor. And then Magic Kitchen podcast, very general witchcraft. We get pretty deep. Like we've had a few episodes where like we have to tag them because they get a little deeper than I think people might necessarily expect, but they're good. Like people seem to like that too. So that we kind of cover witchcraft in a bigger, broad way. We've had on Lilith Dorsey, Christopher Hughes, Evo Dominguez Jr. several times. Amy's been on a few times. So that one's really good for like contemporary witchcraft. And then I also have Cosmic Theater Mystery School, which is co-hosted with my friend Megan Plummer, who's a medium and paranormal investigator in Maryland. And that show bridges the paranormal world, which can be quite patriarchal, quite fear driven, quite demons this, demons that, with the spiritual world, where we be talking to spirits all the time without any of that scary stuff happening. So that show really tries to bridge the liminal space that is paranormal investigation and spiritual work. Because, she's a practicing, she doesn't really use the term witch, but she's a very spiritual lady. So her paranormal investigation, like we always call it like a witch's ethical ghost hunting, because it's not often done that way on
No,
TV.
I mean,
So
well,
yeah.
absolutely. There's a lot of disrespectful things that happen in that community, but then there's these brilliant people like yourself, and I have a friend Holly and other people who have done this gentle reclaiming of, again, just steering it more towards the fact that this is ancient wisdom. I mean, paranormal, whatever, you can say that, but it is still ancient wisdom because you're connecting with a spirit. You have the opportunity to kind of make it significant and beautiful, or you can, I hate to use this word, demonize it, but you can do that. You can take it down that dark path and make sure that you are, projecting fear and unwholesome qualities into something that doesn't need to be like that.
Yeah.
Awesome. That is so cool. I can't believe I'm still like just floored that you have 3 podcasts. That's incredible.
And then, well, I don't edit any of them. My husband does Magic Kitchen, Jordan does Seeking Numina, and Megan does Cosmic Theater. So, like,
Oh my
I just
gosh.
get to, which is
Okay, that's it. I'm just gonna hire an
editing
editor.
is,
I'm done.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, I would not have any if I had to edit it. It is the worst, worst, worst. Even my Instagram and social media, I do all of that myself, and I hate it. I
Yeah,
hate
it's
it.
a lot. It's a lot. I'm doing this because because of these conversations. This is 100% of the reason why I'm drawn to do it. I was listening to so many podcasts and I was just, oh, I wish they would ask this question. I wish they would ask that question. And so I was like, well, you know what? I guess I'm just going to do it. But that's awesome. I'm going to check out all of your podcasts. I already was listening to the Magic Kitchen, so I'm just going to add the other ones. So your upcoming
Yes.
book, you have 2 books coming out.
Yes. Yeah, this fall's fun.
So you said that in 2020, you decided you went on this journey to become a full-time writer. It's
Yes.
also, among other things, a priestess, a teacher, a mentor, a guide, a facilitator. I guess you could call yourself many different things. But what does your writing process look like? So I know you told us about what inspired your upcoming book. What do you hope, what do you hope readers will take from your book?
I really hope that people will be empowered to go do the magic. There is a lot of armchair witchcraft out there. There's a lot of doom scrolling witches out there. Like, turn it off, close the phone, leave it inside, go outside. Like,
Yeah.
it sounds crazy, but I have in my courses, I teach, witchcraft, the path of the sacred wild, connection to deity. People know that going in that we're going to talk about land. And when people sign up and then they say, oh, I can't go outside, I'm all for accommodations. Like a lot of times people are like, oh, it's raining. I can't go outside. Oh, it's too cold out. Oh, there's a lot of stairs. I'm on the second floor. If you don't experience your magic, your practice is not going to deepen. That's all. That's the long and that's the short of it. So I hope my books encourage people to just get out there. In Sacred Wild, particularly, the exercises scaffold as you go throughout the book. So the first exercise, if I remember correctly, is to have your cup of coffee on your porch, you know. And I even have an accommodation if you're like, oh, I have no porch, Elyse. I have absolutely no nature that I can possibly step foot in. Um, you can open a window and sit by that, So it is very, very surprising to me how often people will tell me, oh, I cannot go outside, and how little that ends up being true. I was a nomad the majority of my life. I lived in Baltimore for 4 years. So, I know what it's like to not have nature nearby. I definitely know. But we all have a window we can open. We all have, you know, a median near the road near us that has flowers growing in it. Fortunately, the world has not evolved to such a level where it's impossible to see nature. It is always possible. And I want people to feel that empowerment to go seek it out.
Absolutely. I've attended so many events and workshops, and some of them are amazing, and a lot of them are really great academic approaches. but you can kind of tell when someone is taking an academic approach and hasn't truly gone outside and stayed outside and watched the sunrise and, called out to your ancestors or the land spirits or the gods and goddesses, or spent time just really truly slowing down and connecting, listening for those
Yeah.
signs and deepening your knowing. I
Yeah.
think that's what we're supposed to be doing. It's pretty awesome. Thank you for that.
And we have to get the mind out of it. Like people are so worried about not understanding it that they don't even get it. They don't experience it. They're in the middle of a cool vision and they're like, "Hold on, I need to Google. Is that actually like let it
Yes.
happen. Let the
Yes.
experience happen." And then afterwards, things always end. Then go to the journal, write it all down, then you can do some research, but let the experiences ride.
Yes, I always say let it be fluid because energy and our guides will take the path of least resistance. So sometimes, you're tearing apart, who am I speaking to right now? Is this an ancestor? Is this a spirit? Is this a ghost? That does focus on the message first. Focus on the message first and focus on your feeling and your perspective. And eventually, sometimes it becomes known, but you
Mhm.
miss, the forest for the trees.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah. That's a
it
great example.
well, that's an important thing because we get so hung up on titles that we lose everything. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
And that's a theme that comes up in my novel, which comes out September 30th. Um, Available for pre-order, folks. What the Water Remembers. I'm gonna have a launch party for that one in Haverty Grace, Maryland. So stay tuned on all my socials about that. But that book is really meant to encourage witches in or out of the broom closet to live their best life. Kendra Hill and her husband George, he's not a practicing witch, but they find a house that's in their price range and it's just way too good to be true. And so she brings her pendulum, and this is, page 1 and 2, gets her pendulum and starts talking and realizes there's at least one spirit in here. And the energy's a bit confusing, but she's like, you know what? I'm a witch. I think I can handle this. So they put an offer in, they get the house. And the book is about her reckoning not only, who are these ghosts, doing the historical research, like it's the mystery part is really fun, but then also like what does it mean for her to be a witch? How comfortable is she going to be with her power to take care of her house? Because her husband's going to have to know a little bit more than he ever has before. And then her dad's there, and he kind of serves the role of like the completely confused, what, witchcraft? Never heard of that. So she has to really reckon, and she's in small town PA. It takes place in Newport.
Oh my gosh,
So
Newport. That's amazing.
yeah, yeah, it all makes sense why in the book. But yeah, it's a really beautiful book, and I always say it's like Charmed meets Nancy Drew because you have practical witchcraft in there that you can literally, if you've got ghosts in your home, here's some rituals, give them a try. And they scaffold too. You like the first ones she does, very doable. As they get harder, it's like, whoa, okay, I guess she really has a lot of ghosts. But if you're in a place where you need that, there it is too. So so yeah, I'm excited for that one to come out too. I
That's
wrote
my
that in 2021. Like
oh,
it's been, oh, the fiction world takes forever.
it really does. It really does. Yeah, we spoke about my indie publishing project that I'm working on right now, and it's just
So awesome.
it is so awesome though. I can't wait to see how that story unfolds. I'm on the edge of my seat. I appreciate your energy, and it's just so funny listening to your story of how you did a ritual in a book that you got from your library. You had this really cool witchy librarian who was kind of inadvertently part of the reason why you ended up here today. Oh, librarians are superheroes, in my
Oh
opinion.
yeah.
You're hosting an event too coming up, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's wild. So I've been in Greece full time for 5 years, and then as these books were coming out, and I was getting dates for conferences, I was like, you know what, I'm going to be in the States like 9 months of the year. So my husband and I decided to actually buy a house here. We're in Maryland. Love it here. Haverty Grace called me here. It's an unbelievable little town. It's right where Mama Susquehanna ends. And the whole town is built on a quartz deposit. And it's surrounded by national park. And the natives were never kicked off the land here. There's still a reservation here. And the natives live within our population too. So it's a very different vibe than anywhere I've ever been in the world. So for 3 years anyway, I was visiting this place and I fell in love and we decided to move here. And I'll still spend 3 to 4 months a year in Greece, but this will be our new home base. And as life happens, I was talking to my friend Megan, who I do Cosmic Theater Mystery School with, and she's like, you know what, we really should do. Every year we were hosting a séance and a ghost walk here in Havre de Grace, and it was growing and it was getting really big. And she's like, I'll keep you posted because there might be a new venue we could explore. My husband, meanwhile, he's now working with Seeking Numina full time, and he was looking at the events calendar and he's like, why is this just 2 events? You guys could do a whole festival. You could do it. And I'm like, you know what? Okay, why not? Sure. Next day, Megan gets invited onto the board for Harmerstown Art Center. And it's this beautiful outdoor venue, brand new, amazing. There's a spiral path. There's like grass. Everything's beautifully lit overhead. And the whole thing is surrounded by murals. It's so awesome. It's so awesome. And it's right at the water. So you're looking out at Mama Susquehanna, oldest river in the whole world. She is 444 miles long and she ends right there. So the magic of this land is unreal. This festival is the first annual Samhain Fest on November 1st at Harmerstown Art Center in Havre de Grace, Maryland. It's going to be great. We're hosting a dumb supper so you can come and eat with your ancestors. I'm going to lead an ancestor journey to literally meet your ancestors on the astral. Leandra Witchwood is going to be there doing a tea demo about ancestor tea, how to connect with your ancestors through herbs. And then we also, it looks like we're going to have a Paranormal and Oddities museum do exhibits of haunted items. And then Megan's going to run her ethical ghost hunting experience. And that's just to start. We've got live music, we got vendors. It's going to be amazing. Food trucks, it's going to be awesome.
Oh, that's
So definitely come on
awesome.
out.
And it's so funny. I didn't realize you were so close. So that, now you're stuck with me visiting you every once in a while. I'm totally
For
gonna
real, come to the river. Let's go
come to
drum
the
at the
end of the
river.
river. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, the Susquehanna and I have a long relationship, but I often joke with my friend who lives in Marietta. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go whisper to the river spirits. You tell me when you hear me. So,
That's where she first called me. I went to Millersville. So I
oh,
was always
okay.
hanging out over there. I hated Millersville. I hated it. It was such
You're
an
not the only
awful
person who's told
school.
me that.
I was there, I graduated in 2017. So I was there during like gay marriage becoming legal,
Mm,
and everyone was protesting it. Like it was awful. And then we tried to do a stand to not protest it. Like I'm a bisexual, demisexual woman. Like, my rights. What are my rights?
yeah.
And we were not allowed to have a table, but they were allowed to have preachers at all 4 stoplights in the campus, on campus. And now they've removed all of their gender studies programs, even the one for biology students to learn actual genitals. So, yeah, Millersville is trash. It is trash. I hate
Ugh.
that school.
Yeah,
I
that's
hate it.
terrible. That's awful. Well,
Marietta, big fan. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, the town's beautiful. But that sucks. I'm sorry
Chickies
you're
Rock is
experiencing
in
that.
Sacred Wild. I write about Chickies Rock in Sacred Wild. Super sacred. It is a super sacred place.
Now, well, I'm glad I pre-ordered. I mean, I was already glad, but I can't wait to hear if I decide that I want to go to this Samhain Fest on
Hmm.
November 1st. How do I, is it, do you have to buy a ticket or is it just like a big festival where you can show up?
Yes, tickets are, and that includes all the experiences,
Okay.
except the seance, because we're doing the seance at the bottom of a Masonic lodge. We did that there last year and it was unreal. It was amazing.
Ooh.
So that is limited spots, so that's separate tickets. But everything else is all included in the festival ticket, and it's at samhainfest.com.
This has been awesome. I hope that we can connect again because I would love to hear about your other
Absolutely.
projects and I want to do a seance with you. That sounds amazing.
Yeah. And for real, let me know whenever you want to come down to the river. Like, I just love it. I love any excuse. There's hiking trails we can do, whatever. I've a favorite local pub I can take you to for
Oh,
for some
heck yeah.
food.
Oh, I'm on board. I'm on board. Well, thank you for all of this. I'm gonna post all of your socials and the ways to reach out to you. I
Oh, thank
just
you.
thank you for coming on. I really appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.